Namaste. Welcome to my channel Qubit Educational Services. My name is Pranesh. In this video we are going to solve the 1 mark questions from GATE XE Engineering Mathematics and the year is 2008. Okay. So this particular question paper consisted of 18 questions from mathematics, out of which the first 6 were of 1 mark and the remaining 12 were of 2 marks. Okay. So we will go to the first question now, which is based on linear algebra. If the characteristic equation of a 3 by 3 matrix is lambda cubed minus lambda squared plus lambda minus 1 equal to 0, then the matrix should be Hermitian, unitary, skew symmetric and identity matrix. Now to solve this problem, we recall the properties of the characteristic equation, which is essentially a polynomial equation. Okay, and we know that the roots of the characteristic equation are the eigenvalues of that matrix. Okay, so we know that the trace of any matrix is actually the sum of the diagonal elements of it, and which also happens to be the sum of the eigenvalues. Correct. Now in this case it is the negative of the coefficient of lambda squared. Okay, well, that is basically the properties of polynomials, right? So the trace is equal to 1 here. Now this means that the sum of eigenvalues is also equal to 1, and if you now go to option D, which is the identity matrix, this matrix is ruled out now because the sum of the diagonal elements of the identity matrix is 3. Correct. So it is not equal to 3, so I am ruling out option D. And if you go to option C, which is skew symmetric matrix, you know that the diagonal elements of a skew symmetric matrix are all 0. Correct. So their sum is also equal to 0, and which is not the case here. Correct. So it is neither 0 nor 3, so I can also rule out option C. So it is either a Hermitian matrix or a unitary matrix. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve this particular cubic equation by observing that I can take lambda minus 1 as a factor from the first two terms. Okay, so if I do that, then I will get lambda squared into lambda minus 1 plus 1 into lambda minus 1 equal to 0, which gives me lambda squared plus 1 into lambda minus 1 equal to 0, which also gives me lambda as 1 or plus or minus I. So this particular matrix, whatever matrix that is, has 3 eigenvalues, 1, positive I and negative I. Okay, now if you know the Hermitian matrix is such that, well, this is not the definition, but the Hermitian matrix is such that all of its eigenvalues are real. Okay, so because Hermitian matrix has real eigenvalues and this particular matrix has eigenvalues which are not real, we can rule out option A. So it's not Hermitian, and therefore the only option that is left is unitary. Correct. All right. Now, as I said, Hermitian matrices always have real eigenvalues. Okay, the definition is different. Okay, so the definition of a Hermitian matrix is such that it is a square matrix for which if you take the conjugate transpose, then that is equal to the original matrix. So it is basically the complex version of the real symmetric matrices. Okay, so we already obtained option B by elimination, but if you know, you can also solve this question otherwise, and that is eigenvalues of a unitary matrix are always unimodular, meaning that their absolute value or modulus is equal to 1. Okay, which is the case with all the eigenvalues here, 1, I and minus I, and hence it is option B. Okay, yes. So in order to solve this particular problem, you should know the characteristic equation, the polynomial equation, and the nature of the coefficients and the roots, and of course the types of the matrices, and in particular their eigenvalues, the nature of their eigenvalues. Okay, let's now go to question number 2. Question number 2, now this is based on limits of multivariable functions. So we have limit of x to the power 4 plus xy divided by x cubed minus y cubed as both x and y approach 0, and the options are 0, 1, negative 1 and does not exist. Now if the option D had been some other number instead of does not exist, we would have chosen any convenient path and obtained the answer, because we know that if the limit exists, then irrespective of the path, the limit's value is the same. Okay, but because of option D, that it does not exist, the limit may exist or may not exist, we still don't know. And to solve such problems, there is no definite or fixed approach as it is with the single variable functions, and we have L'Hospital's rule at our disposal. Okay, or we can just take the left and the right hand limits and see what values they provide. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose 2 or 3 convenient paths and check whether I'm getting different answers or whether I'm getting the same answer. Okay, so let's choose the x-axis whose equation is y equal to 0, and if we do that, then in the numerator we will have x raised to 4, and in the denominator we will just have x cubed. So effectively it is limit of x as x tends to 0, which is 0. Okay, now if I choose a vertical path, which is y-axis or x equal to 0, then in the numerator we will get 0 forever. Okay, no matter how close to 0 we are or where we are, it is always going to be 0. And in the denominator is negative of y cube, correct, because of x being 0. So in this case, no matter what the value of y is, remember y is not equal to 0. Okay, y is tending to 0. Okay, so it is always 0 because of the numerator, so this is also 0. Well, now you can say that the limit may exist, but it is not sure because there are infinitely many paths to reach the origin. Okay, now what I've done is I've tried y equal to x squared. Now with this path y equal to x squared, what we get in the numerator is x raised to 4 plus x to the power 3, because it is x into y here, correct? And in the denominator, if I take y as x raised to 2, then it will be x cubed minus x raised to 6, because it is y cubed. Okay, now if I divide the numerator and denominator by x raised to 3 or x cube, x raised to 4 will become 1, this will become x raised to 4 will become x raised to 4 will become x cube will become 1. Okay, but addition is commutative, so it shouldn't make a difference. And in the denominator it is 1 minus x cube after dividing by x cube. Okay, so what are we going to get? We're going to get 1 plus x in the numerator, or x plus 1, and 1 minus x cubed in the denominator. And if I now let x to be 0, then I'm getting 1. Okay, so what do you observe now? You observe that if I choose a different path apart from the coordinate axis, then I'm getting a different value of the limit, which is enough to conclude the path dependence of the limit, or which in turn implies that the limit does not exist. Okay, so the answer to question 2 is option D, that the limit doesn't exist because it depends on the path. Alright, so that is question number 2. Let's go to question number 3. Question number 3 is based on analytic functions and the Cauchy-Riemann equations. If f of z given by u plus iv is an analytic function and u minus v is x minus y the whole cubed plus kxy into x minus y, then k is 2, negative 4, 6, negative 8. Now this is a very simple question, okay, but the approach is very much important. Okay, so what we are first going to do is we need to somehow bring in the Cauchy-Riemann equations. So we will differentiate u minus v with respect to x and with respect to y respectively. Okay, so if I do partial u by partial x minus partial v by partial x, okay, it will give me 3 into x minus y raised to 2, and now let us apply the product rule. So it will be ky into x minus y plus kxy into 1. Okay, now let us differentiate both sides with respect to y. Okay, so it will give me partial u by partial y minus partial v by partial y equal to 3 into x minus y raised to 2, but now this will get multiplied by negative 1 because y has a negative sign, chain rule. Okay, again apply the product rule, so it will be k into x minus y plus kxy into negative 5. Now what do the Cauchy-Riemann equations tell us? Okay, they tell us that partial u with respect to x is equal to partial v with respect to y, and partial u by partial y or uy is equal to negative vx. These are the Cauchy-Riemann equations, so we need to bring in these two equations now. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll first add these two equations that I've got, this one and this one, and then I will subtract. Okay, so let us add. What will happen on adding? On adding, dabba u by dabba x and dabba v by dabba y, these being equal to each other as per the Cauchy-Riemann equation, these two terms will get cancelled, and dabba u by dabba y is actually equal to negative of dabba u by dabba x, okay, or partial v by partial x, correct? So I will get 2 dabba u by dabba y equal to excuse me, first two terms will get obviously cancelled, and so are the last two terms. Okay, so the terms that will get added are ky into x minus y plus kx into x minus y, which is k into x plus y into x minus y. So dabba u by dabba y is now k by 2 into x squared minus y squared, and if I now integrate both sides with respect to y, I will get u as k by 2 into x squared y minus y cubed by 3 plus some arbitrary function of x, let's call it f1 of x, plus the arbitrary constant c1. Okay, now I'm going to subtract. Now if we subtract, what is going to happen is it's dabba u by dabba x minus dabba u by dabba x minus dabba u by dabba y plus dabba v by dabba y. Okay, so what will happen is the two partial derivatives which got cancelled will now get added, and the ones which were added, which got added due to addition, they will now get cancelled. Okay, so dabba v by dabba x and dabba u by dabba y, these will get cancelled, and what we'll have is 2 times dabba u by dabba x. See, I'm deliberately writing it as dabba u by dabba x because we already have an expression for u which we obtained by integrating partial u by partial y, correct? So let's do that for x. So we'll get 2 dabba u by dabba x equal to so now again the terms which got cancelled earlier, they will now get added, so it will be 6 into x minus y bracket squared plus 2k xy, and then we'll have well, I can take k common, so it will be y minus x into x minus y, and if so, see, basically it is y minus x, and now if I take that negative sign common, then again we'll have x minus y, so it is x minus y bracket squared into minus 1. Okay, now divide both sides by 2, so partial u by partial x is equal to 3 into x minus y squared plus k xy minus k by 2 into x minus y bracket squared. Okay, now we'll integrate this with respect to x now. Okay, so u will be equal to x minus y bracket cubed upon 3 plus k into x squared by 2 into y minus k by 2 into x minus y bracket cube divided by 3 plus some possible arbitrary function of y, let's call it f2, plus the arbitrary constant c2. Okay, now u cannot be, u can't be two different functions, it has to be the same function. So what I'm going to do is, instead of comparing the two, all we are interested in is finding the value of k, and k happens to be present here, and it also happens to be present here, correct? So let's just consider one of those terms. So let's consider x squared y. Okay, there is no chance that f1 of x and f2 of y will have both x and y together, so it's enough if we compare the coefficients of x squared y in both the expressions that we have got for u. Okay, so on one side we just have k by 2 in this part, the left one, and in the right one, if you expand x minus y bracket cube, it is x cube minus 3x squared y. Okay, so that minus 3 is present here. Okay, here you do have x squared y directly, so it is k by 2, and when you expand x minus y bracket cube, okay, again you're going to get negative 3 x squared y, correct? Yes, so that negative 3 will appear here, and negative k by 6, because of this 2, this 3 and this 2 is already there. Okay, so it is negative k by 6 into negative 3. So what you see now is a simple linear equation in k, which if you solve will give you the value of k to be 6. Okay, so the option is C, that is k is equal to 6. Okay, so a simple question, but When I said the approach is important, it's not sufficient to just know the Cauchy-Riemann equations. You should know how to apply them. Okay, and we have applied them indirectly in steps 2 and 3 here, when we added and subtracted, and eventually we compared the coefficients of x squared y, and then we got the answer as 6. Okay, so this is question number 3. Let us now go to question number 4. Question number 4 is based on directional derivatives, which is one of the very frequently asked topics in GATE. So what we have is the following. The directional derivative at the point P1, 2, 3 to the surface x squared plus y squared by 4 plus z squared by 9 equal to 3 in the direction of the vector OP bar, where O denotes the origin is, and we have 4 options. Now this particular surface, if you don't know, is an ellipsoid. Okay, it is a surface which pretty much looks like an egg. Okay, but we are not bothered about that. Whatever shape that is, our approach is fixed. Okay, so I'll call the scalar function phi as the left hand side of the equation of the surface. Okay, so phi is equal to x squared plus y squared by 4 plus z squared by 9. Okay, so phi equal to constant will represent level surfaces, and there are many of them. So one of them is equal to phi equal to 3. Okay, and the next step is to find the gradient of phi, which is 2x plus 0 I cap plus 2y by 4 or y by 2 j cap plus 2z by 9 k cap. I hope you got why we ignored the other terms, because they didn't contain the the other two respective terms. For example, x squared does not contain y and z, and y squared by 4 and z squared by 9, they do not contain x. So the partial derivative of phi with respect to x, which is the I component of gradient, is just 2x, and so on. Okay, so gradient of phi basically denotes the normal direction. Okay, but now we need to find its projection on that direction, about which we need to find the, well, along which you need to find the directional derivative. Okay, so now at P, whose coordinates are 1, 2, 3, if I substitute these those coordinates here, then it is 2 into 1, so 2 plus I cap plus y by 2 j cap. Now y is equal to 2, so it's 2 by 2, so 1 plus 2z by 9 k cap. Now z is 3. Okay, so it is 6 upon 9 or 2 by 3 k cap. Alright, fine. So this is basically the normal direction at P, but because this is not a sphere, it is an ellipsoid, it will not coincide with OP bar. Okay, so now what I'll do is, I'll first find the unit vector along OP bar directed radially outward, and then I'll take the dot product of the two to find the directional derivative. Okay, now the unit vector in the direction of OP bar is the position vector of that, which is which is I plus 2j plus 3k divided by its magnitude, right? So divided by root of 1 plus 4 plus 9, which is root 14. Okay, and you can see root 14 being present in all the options except A. Okay, now we can take the dot product of the gradient, that is del phi, with the unit vector n cap, which is this one, and so I can take the dot product of these two vectors. Because of the properties of the dot product, I am allowed to do that. So it is 2 into 1, 2, 1 into 2, 2, plus 2 by 3 into 3. So 3 will get cancelled, so I'll again get 2. So it is 3 times 2 upon root 14, or 6 by root 14, which is option D. Okay, so a pretty simple question, and as you expect, it has only 1 mark. So this was question 4. Let's now go to question number 5. Question number 5 is based on first order differential equations. If the solution of the differential equation dy by dx plus p of x into y equal to x into y cubed is y squared into 1 plus c into e to the power x squared equal to 1, c being an arbitrary constant, then p of x is negative x, x by 2, x and 2x. Now if you observe closely, this is basically the Bernoulli's differential equation. Okay. And secondly, the general solution that you see here is such that the terms containing y and the terms containing x are separate, correct? So which means that this differential equation has to be variables separable, okay? And the options are also an indicator of that, okay? So if you write dy by dx as xy cubed minus p into y, for this to be variable separable, p must be a linear function of x, okay, with no constant term. So p of x has to be in the form k into x, and our options also support this: -1, 1/2, 1 and 2. Okay, so you can solve it by Bernoulli's differential equation method, that is basically by dividing by y raised to 3 and then substituting y raised to -2 as v. Okay, but this is a 1 mark question, so why waste so much time on that? Okay, so what I've done is I've started with the solution. Okay, so y raised to -2 will become 1 plus c e to the power x squared, and then basically I have tried to extract c. Okay, so first step is you shift 1 to this side and then you divide both sides by e raised to x squared. If you do that, then you will get c on one side, and on the other side you will have y raised to -2 minus 1 into e to the power minus x squared. Now the sole purpose of doing this step is we can now differentiate and get rid of the arbitrary constant, which will give rise to the differential equation which we have here, and thereby we'll get p of x. Okay, so differentiate both sides with respect to x, and now we need to apply the chain rule. So it will be -2 into y raised to -3 into dy by dx into e to the power minus x squared, second function as it is because derivative of this is 0, plus y raised to 2 minus 1 into derivative of the second function, which is negative squared exponential function, e to the power negative x squared into negative 2x. Okay, and I'm going to cancel some terms. First of all, e to the power x squared will get cancelled because it is present in both the terms and it is never equal to 0. Okay, so I can see that I've already cancelled it here, and -2 will also get cancelled. Okay, you can see that I've cancelled it here. Now this basically gives us the following. It gives us y raised to -3 into dy by dx plus y raised to -2 minus 1 into x, don't forget this x, equal to 0, correct? And if you now multiply both the sides of this equation by y cube, this y raised to -3 will go and you'll just get dy by dx. This y raised to -2 minus 1 will become y minus y cube, and this x will remain. Okay, and as a result of this, our differential equation will be in the form dy by dx plus x into y equal to x into y cube, and this was our differential equation with which we began, right? Dy by dx plus p of x into y equal to xy cube, and for us p of x is equal to x, right? This is p of x. So p of x is equal to x, so it is option C. Okay, yes, so question 5, option C. Question number 6 is again based on linear algebra, but this time it is based on the system of linear equations and not the eigenvalues. Okay, so the question is, the system of equations ax plus by plus a squared equal to 0, bx plus ay minus b squared equal to 0, and x plus y plus a minus b equal to 0 admits unique solution if a is equal to b, both are non-zero. Admits unique solution if a is equal to negative b, both are non-zero. Admits a unique solution if a is equal to b and both are equal to 0. Does not admit unique solution for whatever values a and b have. Okay, now we solve this problem by elimination of the options, very much like we did it for question 1. Okay, again coincidentally a problem on linear algebra. Okay, so suppose both a and b were equal to 0 or are equal to 0. Now if both a and b are equal to 0, then the first equation basically gives me 0 equal to 0, and so is the second one, 0 equal to 0. And in the third one, if both a and b are equal to 0, this is basically x plus y equal to 0. So any point on the line x plus y equal to 0 is going to satisfy all three equations. So if a is equal to b and both are equal to 0, then infinitely many solutions. Okay, so if a is equal to b equal to 0, then infinitely many solutions. So I can rule out option C. Okay, now let's go to option A, which says that a is equal to b, but it's not equal to 0. Excuse me. So let's replace b by a. So in the first, I'm going to get a x plus a y plus a squared equal to 0, and in the second, I'm going to get ax plus ay minus a squared equal to 0. Now if that is the case, okay, then what we are getting is ax plus ay plus a squared equal to 0 from the first, and ax plus ay minus a squared equal to 0 from the second. Okay, now these represent parallel lines, and because a is not equal to 0, these lines cannot be coincident. Correct? So we have parallel lines which never intersect, coplanar lines. So there does not exist any solution at all, no matter what the third equation is, because the first two equations represent two parallel and distinct lines. Okay, so option A is also ruled out, no unique solution is admitted. So it is either B or D. Okay, so we'll try the possibility given in option B, which is A not equal to 0, B not equal to 0, but A and B are related by A equal to negative B. Okay, so I'm going to replace A by negative B. Okay, so I'm going to get first equation negative bx plus by plus b squared equal to 0, and bx minus by minus b squared equal to 0. So these two equations basically represent coincident lines. Okay, why do they represent coincident lines? Because if I multiply the first equation by negative 1, I'm getting the second. Okay, hence coincident lines. And because none of them is equal to 0, both a and b, I can divide by b. Let's say I divide the second equation by b, which gives me x minus y minus b equal to 0. Okay, now if we just were given the first two equations with the condition in option B, we would have said infinitely many solutions, but there is a third equation present. Okay, and that is x plus y plus a minus b equal to 0. Now if a is equal to negative b, that boils down to x plus y minus 2b equal to 0. Now note that here it is x minus y, so the slope, let's call it m1, is equal to 1. Okay, negative a by b in the standard notation, so it is slope equal to 1. And for this line x plus y equal to 2b, the slope is equal to negative 1. Okay, so the lines are not perpendicular, they intersect each other. Well, the lines are perpendicular, sorry, they are not parallel, they do intersect each other at the single point. Well, whatever that is, we are not interested in the location or the coordinates of that point. We are happy with the fact that the two lines intersect. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that there exists a unique solution provided both a and b are not equal to 0 and a is equal to negative b, and therefore it is option B. Okay, so in this video we have solved the 1 mark questions from 2008. In the next video we will be solving the remaining 2 marks questions, starting from question 7 till question 18. So thank you for watching, and thank you for your support. All the best for your GATE XE.